Hi, I'm Mike Henry, and this is my PROCREATE 5 demo for the piece I call Burt Will Fix It. Some of you may remember that not too long ago I did like a real-time character design demo where I designed this character here, kept it rough, but just wanted to kind of get the basic design down in real time instead of a time lapse. That video, the thumbnail for that looks like this: Squatch real-time character design demo. You can go check that out because it's fairly long. What we're going to do in this one is we're going to see all that again in a time lapse and then go beyond that into finishing the character, all the rendering and final touches. Okay, so here we go. Let's talk about the idea behind the character. If you want the real in-depth discussion around the design choices I made, which we'll probably cover just a little bit of that here, go back and watch that other video because it's much more thorough because I'm doing it in real time and sharing my thoughts. So you can see here we've got a Sasquatch. We're playing around with a Sasquatch slash Bigfoot, all the same thing kind of character. And we've played with cryptozoological characters in this lineup before, like with the Chupacabra character, Fulgencio. And so the idea here is we'll throw another one in. I mean, it's that simple. While doing this monster character design series, I wanted to always be looking at opportunities to expand it while not making it so crazy that it feels like a character doesn't fit. I think that the Chupacabra works. I think this Bigfoot works. I think that there are some others that just might not. In fact, the Bigfoot, there is a Sasquatch slash Yeti character included in Darkstalkers, so we already know that others have also included Bigfoot in that same category as things like vampires and all of that other stuff, so it just kind of works. So the actual character here, again, I talk about the emerging of these notions when I did the other video, but just so you know here, this character, the idea is that he's kind of like a fixer, maker, cobbler type. He's not an inventor, creator like Crystal is. He's more of the guy you go to when you have this weird relic but something isn't going right with it, or you have this mechanical thing that's attached to some ancient mechanical thing and you bring it to him and he fixes it. It's fairly simple. His story is that he isn't necessarily a main character. He is not someone who really drives the plot, but he's that stereotypical character you would have in something where he's a little gruff, but he's really reliable, and the cast has to come to him at some point to sort them out with something. So one thing, by the way, when I did the original video for this, I said, oh man, there's just something that's really working about this palette. I really like that he's big and purple and then has these big yellow gloves. I don't know what it is. And then later I was looking at the character and I was like, it's because it's the Max, and the Max is such a cool design, and I realized that these colors together basically is the Max. Yes, the Max isn't wearing big what is that thing called, like an apron, and he doesn't have the shirt and the pants and the thing on his head and all that kind of stuff, but that is the main gist of the Max. He's big and purple with these big yellow gloves basically. So I think that's why it works so well, because we've seen it and it's been kind of proven. So I didn't change that because he's so different in general from the Max. I just thought, let's leave it there and just kind of retcon it as an homage, because why not? I even thought about maybe naming him Dave, but I decided not to because I just thought he really looked like a Burt, I guess. So that's where we're going with the character. So now we've transitioned from doing the roughs into cleaning the whole thing up. So since we already know what the colors are going to be because we did that in the sort of color keys, and then we've got the rough sketch, we are throwing in the flats. This character had a fairly normal layer structure, to be honest. We do all of this hair stuff on the top and then stick his face underneath, and then we've got his distant arm as a layer and his foreground arm as a layer, gloves, separate layers, apron, separate layer, shirt, pants, and then all the skin is on a layer, and then we've got his goggles and stuff on top. So really straightforward. You'll see that in the original, his goggles were this dark green because at the time I actually referenced real welding goggles, and I thought that that would be just nice, and I think that it is a nice touch as far as getting some of the accuracy of the shape. But then later I realized that having his face be kind of gray And even though he's got the glowing blue eyes, having his face be gray and surrounded by the purple, and then he has these like dark green goggles, it just really receded his face, especially since his gloves were like gigantic and yellow. So I do eventually change his goggles to being yellow as well, and then it creates this nice little triangle in the image where you're just going between hands and face and hands and face and hands and face. Another thing that I want to reference here is when I did the original design, one of the most important, well, no, not one of, the most important aspect of a Bigfoot is their big feet. And this entire lineup, aside from Crystal, because she's very small, so we had to show her whole body, all of these characters are cut off at the bottom. They're cut off at the bottom because I actually like that crop. Extending all of them wouldn't be very hard, but we just haven't. And so I've been trying to keep the theme consistent instead of going back and revisiting old ones and updating them and just making it this whole thing. I like the slight bit of increased immediacy by having them be just a little more tightly cropped. Unfortunately, that means we cut off the number one most defining quality of this character. So I did kind of fudge it a little. I mean, I think that this character, because I don't want him to be super big, I want him to be a little squat, not as far as like the Sasquatch character from Darkstalkers, but just a little bit. So I kind of lifted him up a touch, which he wouldn't be. I think that his ground plane would be much lower. But anyways, the point is I tried to get his feet in there a little bit, just so that we could try to kind of hint at what this character is supposed to be, as far as his like type, his like monster type. Okay, so for the remainder of the flats and some of the other process that's coming up here, it's going to be pretty by the book. So let's just speed all this up, and I'll come back in when we get to some more things to reference specifically. Since I like to separate some of the stages so that we can try to control one thing at a time, you'll notice that we rendered up the smock, the apron, and then added in those little details for the ribbing on a separate layer using shadow. Same thing with the stitching that you see on the shirt. Now what you see is the patterning on the shirt, and this was just done by drawing it in with black on two separate layers, and then we are taking the vertical lines, lowering their opacity, and the horizontal lines and lowering their opacity. You could see for a second there I tried to do a pattern thing and I hated it, so I stopped doing it. So these are separate, and then we can merge them together and adjust their opacity as the pattern of the shirt. We'll also add a lightning around the cuffs on the pants, a lightning around the cuff on the sleeves, and here you're seeing the stitching get added in. This is back on the flats side. Same thing with the patterning on the shirt, the stitching on the apron, the lightning on the cuffs of the sleeves. This is all going back to the flats for that, because if you think of it that way, you're still changing like the local color of the object. That's the point of this, and then on top of that still sits the lighting. So that's the premise of, that's the way we think about that, at least. Now we've switched to starting to do the hard shadow. We have the light coming from the sort of in front of him upper left, casting the shadow to the right then. So that's really cool because when we've got these goggles on his head, we can create this dark part, and then his eyes will light up even more underneath there, and then we can also just get some other fun shadows in there. But that's the premise of this, of how we're going to light this. One of the things I've mentioned in the past is the idea of skin tone variation. It's also a variation of other aspects that can give something like really interesting feel when you've got like these really smooth gradients, color transitions, multiple colors across the same surface, and then on top of that all the lighting sits. There's something about it that just registers in the brain that feels really nice to see. So something that we've got going on with the Sasquatch's face, Burt's face, is we've got the lightening of the ears inside the ear, then we've got the lightening of the nose, and then the dark end of the nose right there. This is all just ways to try and kind of own the Sasquatch more, because Sasquatch is such like a drawn thing. Everybody knows what a Sasquatch looks like, and then there are some that try to be outliers. I didn't want to go super crazy. I've referenced already before the one from Darkstalkers. I think that one is super crazy in a great way. It's just a complete reinterpretation. There are others out there as well. What I was trying to do here was bring some of the animal stuff a little bit more in, so that's why he's got these big prominent ears. We've got these color variations, and then in a second here I'm going to bring some of the darkening from the nose, the tip of the nose, and make that the outer part of his ear, the part that's kind of curling over there. We'll darken that as well, just to bring some more variation there and make him kind of fun. You can see here I'm turning on some of these layers again now to start seeing how things are all playing. The quickest layers to set up are those encroaching shadow layers that's all around the outer edge, and then also the vignette one. So once we've got our flats and we think they're going to be good, we can already apply those, and then we can just flip them on again later when we have to. You also saw the rim light turn on for a second. That's the rim light from the rough sketch. Here we're starting to add the softening shadow that's on the distant side of the form, which is just a big fat airbrush. Because all of these monster characters have like a certain amount of like a painterly vibe, but then they also have some more digital, softer aspects. So there's areas of the characters where they have a very painty look, and then other areas where they've been softened quite a bit. And to be honest, that's kind of what gives this character a different vibe than some of the other much more painterly things that you've seen me also do. Like the old turpentine brush, which was messier and rougher, and then the newer turpentine brush that I made that's in my brush set below, that is a little bit smoother. And then on top of that, we're using some of these other softer, more like digital tricks to soften everything up a little bit. And I think that ends up bringing a nice vibe to it, where there are areas that are going to get a little painterly and areas that are also going to be smooth and give the whole thing a little bit more of a dimensional vibe. So you can see that we've also shifted the goggles to being yellow, but they're still really dark. At the time I didn't know if I wanted to represent them as yellow but kind of like a different material, and then I eventually just say no, let's brighten those up, because his face looks like he's in shadow despite the fact that he's not in any more shadow. So you can see right there we brightened it, and then we will eventually at the end also add a little brightening of the face just to bring a little more attention there. He felt like he needed a little bit more help, and that's just with like a super pale yellow, orangey yellow set to overlay, and then we adjust the opacity on that. That hasn't happened yet. You'll see that coming. So now we've done the the lighting layers. We've got sort of like layer 1, which is like a pale blue with reduced opacity, and then number 2, which is the same blue, reduced opacity, but it's just being layered on top so that we can control where that's happening. On this one, because the rim light hits him at the right angle to hit the back of that ear, we also do some subsurface scattering on the ear. The way I usually do that in Procreate is just by using like a slightly orangey yellow, setting it to add, and setting the brush to usually something fairly soft, and going in and just like working it so that it looks like the thinnest parts are getting the most light shining through and the thicker parts aren't. In this case, the interior definition of his ear is very low, so we don't have to worry about that too much. We kind of just have to light the ear, which is what you'll see happening right here as I'm trying to work out exactly how I want to handle that. Something that's like a really weird characteristic of all of these characters that I don't think anybody's picked up on is I usually put just not a lot, not like an insane over detail, but I put detail into ears, and this whole lineup has had very non-detailed ears, very simplistic ears, all the way going back to Larry. I left a lot of the detail out there. It's something that's like I just did, and then I was like, well, I guess I have to keep doing that now, so all the characters have fairly basic ears. We're now doing the bounce lighting. Now I had some struggle on the gloves. I wanted the gloves to feel shiny and like they were reflecting, but it just looked bad every time I tried to do it. So you're gonna see it go through some different phases, and eventually it'll get like greatly reduced, because I don't think it worked out, because the reflection, we wouldn't really see that reflection from this angle, but I wanted it there. Sometimes we bend reality because the human brain still kind of like expects something, even if it's not necessarily correct. Like, that's a decision you have to make as an artist, but it just wasn't working here. So you see it gets smudged out and then like greatly reduced, and then it eventually just kind of is almost like there. It's just far softer. There was that highlight in the face, getting that overlay on his face to really kind of like brighten that up. And then here we land at the very end. So this is Burt. This is him fully rendered up. Everybody already saw like his creation before, and now this is just taking him into the level of finish quality that we need in order to put him in the lineup with everybody else. But there's more. I did the original recording of Burt back then, just named Squatch. I thought it'd be fun if he had a sibling. Unfortunately, we're not going to finish the sibling, and the reason why is because I did this whole lineup and I was starting to get kind of like to where I felt like I needed to wrap it up, and getting just one more done felt like it was just one too many. Now, I still really like her, so you may see me render her up, but right now we're just going to watch her creation in the rough sense so that you can see what the idea is here. So this is the creation of Trish, which is Burt's sister. I thought it would be really cool once I designed him to try and get a female with a similar body type and make another Sasquatch character that kind of went along with him, but he was really like sort of gruff and quiet looking and just kind of reserved, and I wanted a character that was much more like had a bigger personality and was maybe the nice one of the two, the sunshine in the shop compared to the kind of the rain of Burt. So what we have here, the reason why we're seeing her from behind in this pose is because I thought it would be cool to pair her up with Burt and originally have them posed together. So we'll have an example of that towards the end here, but that's the principle. So I drew her on top of Burt so I could try to get a lot of the proportions right. And trying to solve this character was really interesting because we had these really sort of horizontal proportions, these really big hands, and she's still technically supposed to be a Bigfoot. I probably could make her feet bigger, but then at this point I had already acknowledged that she was going to go off the page anyhow, so I didn't really reconcile that to the level that I would have wanted. I wanted to bring some color to her that would differentiate her from her brother, just for fun, not following any kind of like, oh well, this species would be that. Nah, fuck that. Just wanted to have some fun with it. But then I didn't like the fact that she was too close to hazel, so we brought her back over to blue and added some last minute flats in here just to give her like a completely different vibe from her brother. And so here we are at the end with a super rough, but the idea for what Trish could be, Burt's sister, who works with him in the shop, and they're both like these maker fixer type people. Let's look at what they look like together. This is the configuration that I originally had planned. Of course, very crude and very just sort of thrown together. I used his rough version too so that she didn't look too out of place. But I really like the vibe of these two together. And so now I kind of feel like maybe I should finish her. So if you want to see Trish get the full treatment, please leave a comment below and let me know, because that also helps me gauge how into continuing to see these monster characters you are versus canceling it, or not canceling it, but you know what I mean. Which, whether or not I do Trish, there still is only one more monster. We're not going to keep going. It'd be like I add Trish and the other one that's the final one, and then we call it good. Please let me know in the comments below. Now let's take a look at the big chunks. Here's Burt's sketch, and then we'll transition to Burt's color keys. And then it's just a little bit awkward because he has to go off the page, but then we'll go to Burt's final renders. Here's a quick pass on Trish, and then we'll do a pass on Burt to wrap it up. Depending on how you feel and you leave comments about Trish, she'll either be the next one or there'll be another one. So let's see. Thank you very much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider hitting like. If you aren't subscribed, please consider doing that too, and I'll see you on the next one. And if you're looking for me on the internet, these are the places where you can find me.